Hi, dear students. This is Dr. Mamta Java, and I welcome you all to the second episode of the NEET PG 24 Microbiology Recall series. I hope you saw the episode 1. In this very series, I'm going to discuss one NEET PG 24 Microbiology MCQ per episode or video. So let's begin. The question for this episode is: a female child presented with perianal itching at night 3 episodes, and the shown egg was recovered from the patient. What is the likely cause? This was asked in paper 1. The options include Enterobius vermicularis, Hymenelolepis nana, Ankylostoma duodenale, and Necator americanus. Now look at this egg, guys. This is a plano-convex egg typically belonging to Enterobius vermicularis. So the answer of this particular question is Enterobius, not H. nana or Ankylostoma duodenale or Necator americanus. All these I'm going to discuss in the further episodes. Let's talk about Enterobius vermicularis, which has got this typical plano-convex non-bile stained egg, and a lot of questions are asked from this organism. Please remember, guys, parasitology is very scoring. The examiners don't have really new stuff to ask from parasites, touch wood. So do all your parasites pretty well. So talking about this particular parasite, Enterobius vermicularis, remember it's an example of a large intestinal nematode. Now nematodes can be classified as intestinal and tissue nematodes based on where the adult worm is residing. If it is staying in the intestine, it is referred to as an intestinal nematode, and accordingly we have got small intestinal and large intestinal nematode depending on where the adult worm lives in the small or the large intestine respectively. Likewise, if we have got the adult worms of a nematode residing in some tissue, then it is labeled as a tissue nematode. Now, as far as large intestinal nematodes are concerned, please remember there are two significant examples, medically important large intestinal nematodes, Enterobius vermicularis and Trichuris trichura. Now, remember these conveniently as LET, L-E-T, LET, L for large intestinal, E for Enterobius vermicularis, T for Trichuris trichura. Now, there's a famous, saying pertaining to Enterobius vermicularis, which goes like this: you had the infection as a child, you have it now, and you will again get it when you have kids. Now, what does this mean? This means that this particular organism, that is Enterobius vermicularis, I'm going to use the short form EV for Enterobius vermicularis, it is notorious for auto-infection. So because of the repeated auto-infective cycles, the infection is going to, persist for years and years altogether. Now, one more MCQ in this context is: which organisms do show auto-infection? Which parasites do show auto-infection? So, auto-infection is seen in case of, remember, CHEST, chest. इसको ऐसे याद करो, सीना ठोक के auto infection. So these are pretty proud fellows. So C stands for Cryptosporidium. All these fellows are proud of themselves because they have been blessed with the ability to induce auto-infection in the host. So Cryptosporidium parvum. Then H stands for Hymenelolepis nana. E stands for Enterobius vermicularis, our object of attention in this video module. S stands for Strongyloids stercoralis. Remember this fellow, the name itself has got what? The word strong. So it is pretty strong, strong enough to induce auto-infection. And T stands for Taenia solium. So remember these important examples as chest. Now, coming to Enterobius vermicularis. Now, guys, this fellow is also known as what? This fellow is also known as pinworm or seedworm or threadworm. So you can remember all these synonyms as the synonymous names as PEST, pest. P for pinworm, E for Enterobius vermicularis, S for seedworm, T for threadworm. And as I said, this is an example of a large intestinal nematode. So the residence of this organism is what? The large intestine. Now in the large intestine, the adult worms, they are found attached to where? They are found attached to cecum, appendix, okay, cecum, appendix, and adjacent colon via the mouth parts of the adult worms. Now, the disease caused by this organism is known as oxyuriasis, and the reservoir are us only humans. There is no animal reservoir, there is no vector. Now, this is how the male and female worms of Enterobius vermicularis look like. As you can see, the male worm is smaller and the female worm is larger. Please remember, the male worm measures approximately 2 to 5 millimeters in length, and in width it measures somewhere around 0.1 to 0.2 millimeters. So these are pretty small, these are mounted specimens, by the way. So these are, they are very, very small worms and look like threads, whitish thread-like worms. The female, as you can see, is typically larger, measuring approximately 8 to 15, or some books say 8 to 13 millimeters in size. And this is the length, and 0.3 to 0.5 millimeters in width. Now, the posterior end, this is the posterior end of the male, which is typically curved. And look at the female worm. It's so pointed at the posterior end, and that is precisely why this worm is also known as what? The pinworm. So this is the posterior end of an Enterobius vermicularis female, showing the long, slender, pointed, pin-like tail. That is why this worm is also known as pinworm. And seatworm refers to toilet seat. So remember, seatworm, pinworm, these are the synonyms for this worm. Now, the infective form of this worm is the egg, that is the embryonated egg. Embryonated egg, the egg containing the embryo. Now, it measures approximately 50 to 60 microns in size by 20 to 30 microns. The shape, as you can see, typically is plano-convex. So remember, plano means, flat. So it's one side is flat, and this serves as a reminder to also remember that it is a pretty plain or simple fellow. It is not at all dirty. So remember, it is a non-bile stained egg. Plain and clean. So clean means non-bile stained. And inside you have got this tadpole-like larva. Tadpole-like larva is present inside this one. And this is a pretty, simple egg, clean egg, and it also has a tendency to float in saturated salt solution. So it floats in saturated salt solution. Please remember this. Then the infection occurs because of the intake of the eggs, that is the embryonated eggs, which are the infective forms. Okay, these eggs hatch in the cecum, and when they hatch, they will release the larvae. The larvae will develop into adults, and the adults, once they undergo maturity, they will undergo fertilization. So just remember this simple sequence: LAF, laugh. लाफ का वैसे मतलब है हंसना. यहाँ पे I have written the wrong spelling of laugh. It is not LAUGH for us. In parasitology, remember LAF. Larvae to adults to fertilization. So, once the fertilization has happened, the gravid female worms carrying the eggs. These gravid female worms, they have got obviously the eggs. They are going to reach, remember, rectum and colon, and they will start laying eggs on the perianal region, perianal skin. All right. So this is pretty important. So this is one example of a nematode where the eggs are not going to be present in the feces. Very, very rarely you might be able to see eggs in the feces. The eggs are typically going to be deposited on the perianal skin. And remember, one female worm produces typically 2000 eggs per day, and the female worm lives for around 2 months, but typically the auto-infective cycle goes on for years and years altogether, and that is how the infection continues. So this is a pretty important feature, the production of 2000 eggs per day. And remember, after fertilization, the male worms die, and the female worm is going to remain, it is going to be alive, and that too just for 2 months. Then, coming to the pathogenicity and clinical features, remember, most of the infections are actually asymptomatic, and usually, this infection is seen more commonly in females than males, more commonly in kids than adults. Okay, now the cardinal symptom, as was mentioned in the question also, is perianal pruritus. There is intense itching because of the irritation induced by the eggs being laid in the perianal region by the gravid female. Okay, and this perianal pruritus will lead to excoriation of the skin, excoriation of the skin of the perianal region, and this in turn will invite what? Secondary bacterial infections. This is also pretty important. Then the heavy infections are going to be characterized by what? Abdominal pain and loss of weight. Now, very rarely, what can happen is the female worms can enter the appendix, leading to what? Appendicitis. They can even enter the female genital tract, causing vulvovaginitis, and very rarely they can induce what? The peritoneal granulomas and pelvic granulomas. These are pretty rare features. Now, remember one important thing about this parasite. Unlike the small intestinal nematodes, that is Ascaris lumbricoids, strongyloids, stercoralis, and also the hookworms, where during the life cycle the larvae migrate in the lungs, and we have got a Loeffler's pneumonia. Remember, in case of the large intestinal nematodes, that is Enterobius vermicularis and Trichuris trichura, there is no Loeffler's pneumonia. This another MCQ. This is another MCQ. So remember, no Loeffler's pneumonia is encountered in case of large intestinal nematodes. Now, lab diagnosis. As I told you, this is a very typical nematode in the sense that the eggs are not going to be present in the feces. Rather, they are being deposited in the perianal region. So the eggs have to be, identified in that region to make a diagnosis. So one way to do the same is cellophane tape method, whereby a cellulose acetate tape is applied to the perianal region in the morning before the kid goes for a bath. Remember, I told you this infection is more common in kids than adults. Now that tape is then removed and it is examined, it is put on a slide and it is examined under the microscope. So these are the eggs of Enterobius vermicularis in a cellulose tape preparation. Look at these beautifully looking, plano convex eggs. Remember the size, as I told you, it is 50 to 60 microns by 20 to 30 microns in size. Now, these eggs which are being deposited in the perianal region, they are embryonated eggs only. So they are the infective form. So the infective form is being produced in the body and excoriation of the skin is happening. Itching is there. And imagine such a kid is not habituated to hand washing before eating the food. So the child while eating the food is going to ingest the eggs. That leads to auto-infection. Now, another way to make a lab diagnosis is using the NIH swab, that is the National Institute of Health swab. It was devised at the National Institute of Health US and hence the name. Now, this particular swab looks like this. This is a schematic representation of the swab, whereby you can see a test tube inside which there's a glass rod, one end of which is tightened with the help of the rubber stopper, and the other end of the glass rod has got a cellophane attached to it with the help of a rubber band. Now, this glass rod with this cellophane tape attached to one of its end is used to swab the perianal region, and then the cellophane tape is removed, put on a slide and examined under the microscope to look for the presence of the eggs. This is how a diagnosis is maintained. Very rarely you might see the adult female worms in the feces or crawling over the perianal skin, but this is a very rare event. Why I have written only female worms? Because remember, I told you the male worms are going to die after fertilization. Now, coming to the treatment aspect, remember three important drugs. MAB MAP, नक्शे से याद कर लो, MAP मतलब नक्शा, where M stands for mebendazole, A stands for albendazole. Mebendazole is given in a dose of 100 mg once. Albendazole is given in a dose of 400 mg once. Then P stands for pyrantel pamoate. It is given in a dose of 11 mg per kg body weight, and maximum of 1 gram of this drug can be given. And remember, the treatment with these drugs, once it is given in these doses, it has to be repeated. Repeat the treatment after 2 weeks, because this fellow, as I said, is notorious for inducing the auto-infective cycles. And also, it's important to treat the household members to remove any asymptomatic reservoir of the infection. Now, as far as prevention is concerned, it all lies in maintaining proper hygiene. So hand washing and washing the bed clothes. Okay, so as I said, excoriation of the constant itching in the perianal region when done, and the hands are not washed, and the kid is eating the food without washing the hands, that is going to lead to what? Ingestion of the eggs along with the food. So hand washing is pretty important. And sometimes the eggs may be there on the bed clothes of the kids, so it's very very important to wash the clothes properly. So that's the end of episode 2. Do let me know in the comments how did you like this video, and in case you have any doubt in this topic, I'll be very happy to solve your doubts. You can mention your doubts also in the comment section. Thank you. God bless.